Well, welcome to Faith Over Breakfast. My name is Andy Littleton. I'm sitting with my buddy Eric Deepen. We're pastors in Tucson, Arizona at the Village.
That's right. I've been upgraded to buddy, everybody.
Buddy, Eric. So, buddy Eric, what did we talk about today?
Well, we started about Advent, but then we talked about just, I don't know, I think we just had
Memory.
a very pastor-oriented conversation where we were just...
Baptism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about liturgical things.
2020, how it's affected people.
Yeah. It's a fun, rambling conversation. If you know us and you like us, you'll enjoy this conversation. If you don't know us but like us, you'll enjoy this conversation.
If you want to destroy us, there's plenty in here that you can use against us.
Yes. You know, when Andy, forgets something, he'll be like, oh, there's my phone.
Yeah.
Hey, look at that.
Eric's phone's going
Eric's
off.
phone's ringing. All right. Well,
No, that's
it.
That's how we end our intro. Eric's got to pick up the phone.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, it's my dad, so I should do that. Uh-huh. Hello, Mr. Deepen. You're live on the air. How you doing?
Let's do it.
We don't have to talk about... We can just talk about whatever's on our head. Hair.
Dude, you have a new haircut, by the way. Is that new? The shaving on the side?
I do it it's like twice a year deal. I just undercut my hair.
Yeah, I thought about that being another step for me.
But then, you're just going with the grizzly man look. So,
Yeah.
Man, it's fine. It's
Yeah.
good. It's COVID, man.
Yeah. I don't hear myself.
Why do you not hear yourself?
Probably because that's really low. All right. Check. Yeah, that's better.
You look like you're showing up on there.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. I hear you just fine.
Yeah. Well, Eric's got a fresh undercut.
It's been about a month now.
Oh, well, okay, that explains it. Explains why your fresh undercut didn't look that fresh.
So we just had a little conversation about all of the COVID procedures, etc. Before we got on the air.
Got to do it.
These are the frustrating.
That's what pastors really talk. They always get to go. So what are you doing? Are you? Yeah. How many people don't go to your church? Okay. Yeah. Do you require masks at all times during eating or not during eating?
Most people don't eat, so you
Yeah.
don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Most churches don't. It's just
Right.
our churches.
Our churches do. Yeah. So anyway, so we've done that, and you wanted to talk about Advent. And I just said in a mildly snarky manner, and I don't
definitely a mildly snarky man.
I'm not saying this is a good thing, but we have not done like specific Advent, things and lighting the candles and stuff.
You don't do Lent either, right?
Well, we let people borrow stuff, but
so you Lent stuff.
we have not done Lent. And so with all the
Easter time,
with all the resurgence of the Reformation and the liturgy and everything, we do a little bit of that, but we haven't done those things. And to be honest, I feel a little guilt around this, Eric. I feel a little like I should really be doing Lent and Advent, but year by year we don't do it, and we still aren't doing it. And that's just where we are. And I feel shame. I mean, you're not even looking me in the eye right now. And I know what's going on.
I'm looking you in the eye. See, look at that.
Oh, look at that. Yeah.
This is just comfortable.
Yeah. We're kind of doing this like, or we're like 5 feet apart, but we're angled in different directions. Yeah, anyway, so then I was like, okay, we're going to talk Advent and how we're not doing it again.
Well, we could just talk about, what's God doing in your life, Andy? How's he shown up?
Bitterness. Anyway, no, actually talking about the Christmas, heading into Christmas, I'm all for it. And we can talk about Advent, and we can explore this. This is good.
Yeah,
maybe our listeners, maybe they feel the same levels of guilt, shame, and self-righteousness as we feel in this room over their Advent traditions. Maybe.
Maybe.
I'm not saying you're self-righteous. I'm just saying it's possible.
I just enjoy Advent and Lent
Well, then you're not
and the church
self-righteous.
calendar.
That's the right
and
reason.
the resurgence of the I mean,
I know.
we've been doing this since we started.
I know you have. I know.
There's no resurgence. Resurgence of the Reformation liturgy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Oh gosh, yeah. It's like all of a sudden all the cool churches do liturgy, and if you go in, they do 4 happy clappy songs and a sermon. People are like, well, this is lame. I really like when there's a benediction, which we do have a benediction.
You
but,
do have
yeah.
a benediction.
Oh, can I tell you something really cool?
Yes.
All right, so I met one of our deacons at a house of some folks that they come to our church from time to time. They used to live in the apartments next door. They don't have transportation. It's hard for them to come now because they don't live next door anymore. But we went and checked in on them. And when we were leaving, I said, well, we're going to go. And their son, youngest son, pipes up. And he's in high school. But he said, hey, one more thing. I said, oh, yeah, what's that? And he goes, can you do a benediction before you go?
Oh, that's so sweet.
And I was like, I did not expect, or he's like, can I ask one more thing? And I honestly was thinking it's going to be like, can you help me move this desk out of my room or something?
Right.
But can you do the benediction before you go?
Oh,
I was
so
like,
sweet.
that was seriously just made my day. That was so cool. So, yeah.
That's cool. And good thing you have the benediction memorized.
Well, see, here's the great thing about me. I don't have anything quite. I can rattle stuff off when I'm not trying, but I have a really weird memory. Mm-hmm. And so one time we were doing the Lord's Prayer, which I have done my whole life at church, and it was just gone out of my head. And I realized I started to say it, and I was like, it's gone. So I have really long sermon notes, and if I'm doing anything, even the 23rd Psalm that I've said my whole life, I have it on paper because my brain does not.
It just won't do it.
Stuff just goes away.
I
I forget common words. This morning, seatbelt. I couldn't come up with it. And this has been my whole life. I got in the car and I grabbed the seatbelt and I kind of lost hold of it and it hit the window and I went, I dropped the, my daughter's looking at me. She's like, what? And I was like, shoot, what is that thing? Seatbelt. Oh, Jiminy Christmas. Anyway, that's what happens to me. So he says, can you do the benediction? And I'm like, ah! So I just pulled up Jude 24 and 25. I was like, that's the one we did last week. So I pulled it up on my phone and read it. But it's embarrassing, my memory. I don't like it. But I can remember stories and weird details about things that nobody else would remember, right. But I cannot recite to you things.
Yeah,
it's not.
I have some of the same problems.
Yeah, it's not like necessarily I don't have a memory. It's just it doesn't work. Like I can't quote movies. My favorite movie is Field of Dreams. I've watched that movie so many times. I know people that can quote a movie they've seen once. I still cannot verbatim quote. Other than if you build it, he will come. I've got that one. Okay. But I can't quote to you lines from that movie. I've seen it 20 times.
Yeah. No, I mean, people know me as a Star Wars and Matrix kind of freak. Yeah. I don't remember anything about those movies.
Right. You know what happened. You could explain, I'm guessing, and this is me with Field of Dreams.
I can replay the movie in my head.
Right. And I can talk about the themes and what it means and the deeper ways it makes me feel and why I connect with it all day long. And I can remember, the scenes, but I cannot quote it to you.
Right. No, I hear you.
Yeah.
I remember hearing a story, well, actually, directly from John Piper. Early in his ministry, I don't know if it's an elder or someone in his church, he gets a phone call, he's passed away, it's early, or he's in the hospital, and he's really sick. And he gets there, and he realizes that he doesn't know what to say.
Right. I've heard this. Yeah.
Right. And so he decides, after that, maybe
to just internalize some Psalms, right?
Yeah, well, he memorizes Psalm 46.
Yeah.
Well, I was really convicted by that story.
Yeah.
And I've memorized the whole chapter of Ephesians chapter 1. I memorized Psalm 46. Yeah. I've memorized the entire chapter of Isaiah 61.
Yeah.
And while I was practicing it and while I worked on it every single day, I had it.
Yeah.
3
Yes.
days later, I couldn't even tell you the third verse.
Right.
And I could reread it over and then practice, and then I get it down, and then it would be gone again. And literally, I would have to practice those every single day.
Yep.
And then I'd have to dedicate 2 hours to each, to the
Yep.
memorization to just hold on to it.
That's the same with me. When I did the silent retreat a little over a year ago, or about a year ago in New York, I memorized a psalm, and I had it. Same thing every day. I did it. It was really good. Blessed is the man who fears the Lord, who walks in his ways. You shall eat the fruit of the labor of your hands. You will be, or he shall be blessed, and it shall be well with you. Now I'm already starting to, I had it down, but I've tried it every once in a while. I'll just be driving along, and when I get into the middle and the end, I'm like, shoot.
Yep.
So similarly, I feel like I'd have to do it every day, and there's other things I've memorized that similarly that I don't retain it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this for me personally, like the little secret behind the Village music is that because it's all scripture, it has helped me be a pastor, because I'm like, oh yeah, 1 Peter 2. All right, I know what that's about. Oh, Romans 12, 1, 2. Oh, I know what that's about. Oh, okay, Ephesians chapter 1. Oh, I know. All our songs are just, chunks of scripture. And so it helps me, at least, I don't have even the songs memorized, but I have good chunks of them. I know where to find these things. I have this huge flow of scripture because I can hear the song, and then I can go find it and work on it.
I similarly have, if I have, if something has stuck in my head like a song, or for me, a lot of hip hop lyrics, still songs.
Hip hop lyrics.
Or if there's a story or an event or some association that I've made in my life or somebody else's life that corresponds to a specific verse or set of words from a verse, those will be locked in. Not necessarily, I won't always be like, Ephesians 2:7, but I'll have the words and the meaning of it locked in, and I'll have it attached to some event or story or something. And that I've just noticed that with myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. But lyrics help.
Yeah, they do help. Yeah. So, that's why, to make a nice little transition here, that's why I like Advent, why I like Lent, why I, for the first time our church did Eastertide last year, is I'm starting to learn that it really does help me recenter and think about what's happening in the particular space of history that we're looking at, or so we're looking at Christ's birth, or we're looking at his death, or we're looking at his resurrection, and beginning to understand some of the scriptures that apply to those things. It's good, but also I think for me, just the reason I like to talk about it is I'm really fascinated with the early church, between Paul, maybe Peter passing on, and Constantine, the church between that time, maybe even all the way up to 500. Advent and Lent in particular were used to fast and pray for people who are going to be baptized.
Yeah.
And often so people would be baptized at the end of the year or on Easter.
Yeah.
And so there were catechisms, right, that you would go through as somebody who had just come into the faith before you got baptized.
Just like systems of teaching the faith.
Yeah. But what I thought was fascinating is that people were fasting and praying for them. Which in the Protestant world, we're just we're so focused on, at least we used to be, I don't know if we are now as much, but we're focused on this quick form of evangelism where we're going to get the little, 4 spiritual laws to you, and then you get saved.
Right.
And then we get you to church. But this idea that somebody would be fasting and praying for me over a 4 or 5 week period while I studied,
I love that.
That's really cool. And I wish there were enough converts that you come in on Advent and you're like, oh yeah, there's a new catechism, class happening, and here are the people that you're going to be fasting and praying for. That's a pretty sweet thing. So that part is, I would love to have that more integrated in my own church. I'd love to see more people come to Christ in that that way.
Yeah. A really exciting thing for us is this Sunday I always it's not funny, I'm just gonna say it. I kind of dread hanging out with Baptists. Okay, I'm just gonna say that I kind of do, because what's often happened when you hang out with Baptist pastors is you get the question of how many baptisms did you do this year. I've heard this so many times, and it's a thing where I really want to see a lot of people having come to the faith, and I want that to be really deep and meaningful. But I also have this real conviction that I don't want to just push to get people baptized.
Right.
Right. Like I want genuine stuff to happen, and I want the baptisms to come from an actual, like a change, a work of God. Right.
Right.
And of course, sorry, CRC folks out there, we're talking conversion related baptisms. Okay. But it's exciting this week because we're doing at least 3 baptisms Sunday, which came about utterly naturally. A friend who, or a lady at the church who has been on a real journey, and God's been doing some really cool stuff. I mean, I feel like we're just along for the ride in a way. And then she is bringing people with her on her journey, really. And it's like all of a sudden 3 of them want to get baptized. And so we're like, we're kind of scrambling because for us, it's like we got to get this trough out, and we got to, how is the water not going to be frigid and stuff like that.
It's going to be frigid.
Yeah. But I love it. I love that. Like, it's so exciting to me that we're seeing that happen. And, anyway, that's just a cool thing that's going on.
So, and I think it's still here. If you're doing a baptism on Sunday, we have what was designed by one of our engineers is a floating pump that sits in the trough, and you just plug it in, and it has a hose off of it, and it just, one of the swamp filler pumps. Yeah. It just floats there, and it'll just pump out your water for you out the window. So if you want to borrow that,
I might do that.
I'll show it to you before you leave.
Yeah, we got a hose bib close by to where we put this thing.
Okay.
But we
fine too.
We put it out in the front parking lot.
Oh yeah, you just do it outside, so it's not big. We do it inside.
Yeah.
It's gonna be cold.
Yep.
It's one thing to be cold with the heaters on. It's another thing to be cold and then just be like, oh.
What we've done is we've always heated up. What we need is a water heating delivery system. We need I wonder if we could get one of those little point of use. Folks listening to Faith Over Breakfast, this is really what pastors talk about. Those little, just like one of those point of use hot water heaters.
Yeah.
On a little cart, but we could just plug that baby in and warm that water up.
Yeah, that would be nice. It's still gonna be cold coming out if you're outside.
Yeah. Well, sure.
But you got to have some shock when you get baptized.
Yeah. This new life is not just all. It's not a hot tub. It's not rod in the hot tub.
No, it's not rod in the hot tub.
I mean, there are seasons of hot tub time, but come on. Sometimes it's the.
I feel like this Advent conversation is going nowhere.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sometimes it's the victorious douse of Gatorade.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the ice cold super soaker to the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
So what are you? What's this year Advent Christmas looking like for you guys? What are you doing?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, what's sad to me is that COVID has an impact on the way you embrace Advent.
Sure.
And
lighting a Advent candle on Zoom just ain't the same.
Yeah, and we go from year to year on the candles. The kids tend to do the Advent candles in their, classes.
Sure.
More than we do up front. I think for me, Advent is really just impressing on people that it is a reset moment. That the birth of Christ, is a reset moment.
Yeah.
And reflecting on the birth of Christ is a reset moment for us, and that we can really take a stop and reflect on what just happened when basically the eternal entered the finite world.
Well, and for you all, Advent goes along with your fallow month.
It does,
Yeah.
which, since the year in some ways has been completely fallow.
To people who think that maybe they just think you're talking about your buddy, your fellow.
Your fallow.
Can you explain fallow month?
Well, so here's a couple things. One, when our church started, we were pretty committed to not being about the program.
Sure.
So we didn't want to have big Easter programs. We were going to have big Christmas programs.
Yeah.
We really wanted to encourage people to be with their family. We didn't want to take them away from their family.
Sure.
And so we thought, well, all year you've been basically harvesting and planting your field and working your field. And a lot of farmers leave a field fallow, meaning leaving it empty for a while so that it can re-nourish the dirt, basically, so that when you plant in it again, things can actually grow. So for us, we thought, well, Christmas is the most crazy and most expensive time in the year. So this is the time when maybe we shouldn't add to your burden of, I got to be at this meeting, I need to be at that meeting. And to use whatever meetings you would normally go to for the village other than Sundays to hang out with your friends or hang out with your family or invite your neighbor over for a meal or just sit down and read a good book and sit by the fire. So that was part of it. I think also we wanted people to really just think beyond the presents, to have some space to think about the birth of Jesus beyond the reading of Luke chapter 2 before you tear into some presents.
Sure.
To really encourage people. So we've done things like hand out Advent books so people would have a reading to go through. But mostly I just try to emphasize that, hey, this is a time for renewal, but it's also a time for hope. It's time to look forward to the second coming of Christ.
Yeah.
To be reminded as we begin things again, the year again, that Christ is coming back and he's going to make all things new. Yeah. And we're part of that process.
Yeah.
And those evidences, there are evidences of that in our life, and we need to look at how baby Jesus, in a sense, has transformed us, that's the beginning point of our transformation. So, it's not, Lent for us is a lot more involved.
Yeah.
Advent, we just try to emphasize the birth of Christ and the looking forward.
And we always do. We it seems like every year we just go with the month of December. We do something, birth of Christ centered or something around Christmas. So we, though we don't do specifically Advent, we do, dial in on that a little bit. This year, we were just thinking about how the year was going, and we decided to call it Christmas in Chaos. And but really going with the 4 names of the child redeemer from the book of Isaiah, Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, and just working through. This is when that prophecy came, was a time of great political upheaval.
Sure.
Jesus's birth was in the midst of great unrest. And so just kind of to maybe just talk about how really this coming king is the answer in the midst of chaos. But every year we have a little different theme, so we don't follow, so far, we haven't followed a specific similar path, I guess, through Advent. Yeah.
Right. And we don't, like this year Rod covered Advent, week 1 was this Sunday, and it was King David and how Jesus is in the line of David. Right. This next week we'll be talking about John the Baptist, right, and then Mary. So it's just for us, we kind of pick up something that's going to lead us closer and closer to the birth of Jesus. Yeah. And kind of just help us land there.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting thing this year is we've almost every year we've done something collaborative for Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Last year was probably the least least involved, because we just comboed with Cross and Crown, who rents from us, but they really ran the service and not a lot of our people showed up. I think that was a mistake on our part. I think we didn't put enough skin in the game. We were just like, let's do their Christmas Eve. And our people were like, okay, we won't go. A few did, but this year Redemption is now renting from us too because they can't use a school. So
you guys got like everybody. You become the central church for everyone,
which is so cool. Actually,
it is pretty cool.
Yeah, but we talked to them about doing something together, and actually, so part of the Cross and Crown thing, because they're Lutherans, they have to do their thing. Visitors can come, but they can't really collaboratively do a service. They, by their church order, they cannot. So that's part of why that was the case a couple years ago. But anyway, we've been talking to Redemption about trying to do something outdoors and safe for folks. Like, what could we do? And we couldn't find any. The city. This is an interesting COVID frustration for me. The city and the university are not working with people to do any outdoor events. They're just not. They're either not answering or all the departments are just closed. And I thought, man, our climate, meaning Tucson's actual climate, being outdoors this is our golden time. This is the safest way for people to do things. And so all these city venues and parks and stuff are not being really stewarded. You can show up to them, but you can't organize things.
We have.
Well,
at Fort Lowell Park, it's pretty easy.
Really?
You can rent the place for $35, or if you want the lights, I think $80 to $100.
Well, we had oodles of nothing on Reed Park.
Yeah, Reed Park may be a little different, but Fort Lowell you could do.
Yeah, Fort Lowell's so far from where we're at, but not from where I live.
From you, though. Hey, you're the center, man.
But that said, we may be able to do something over in the Mercado zone, it turns out. So that's interesting. So they have an outdoor festival ground and they have FM transmission, so you could do drive-in. And so we just got a tentative, seems like a green light on this 2 days ago. And so we might have quite the interesting sort of public version of a Christmas Eve service. That'd be very different for us. We've always done collaborative, but this would put us very much in the middle of, I mean, seriously, my store in the area might be open right up until when the service starts, which, right next door. That's an interesting
that is
thing.
Interesting. Yeah.
But kind of exciting to me to have that kind of gathering in a space where people are there to like Christmas shop, like do their last minute shopping. I don't know. I don't know. I think I'm excited about it. I'm like, I don't know, what's that going to look like? But I think there's something really interesting there. So that's our Christmas. So if that green light is indeed green, as it seems like it is, there's kind of a lot of stuff to do, but it's kind of exciting. I don't know. The kind of thing Mission Church would get into, right?
Yeah, I don't feel excited about that.
Yeah, you're like,
that doesn't sound exciting to me.
Please kill me. Yeah, I don't want to be a part of that. That's fine, man. There's a reason we didn't invite you. I knew you wouldn't do it.
Well, no, I mean, I'm sure some people in my church would do it.
Right.
So I don't think anybody went to Cross and Crown, even though we told people.
Yeah, we didn't have that many. But we've done, in the past, when we've done collaborative Christmas Eves, well, one of them was Midtown and Epicenter, led to the merger of our church,
yes,
in a way.
I remember that.
And, they've always been really sweet. Always been really good.
Yeah. Usually I'm like, well, Christmas Eve, though, when you have family in town, Christmas Eve service is not a go.
Yeah. Well, we've had a lot of people brought family in the past. We do weird Good Friday. I mean, have you ever experienced, have we discussed this? Our Good Fridays are very, usually kind of dark and foreboding and creative, but like getting you to try to have a sense of things.
Classic, cool, neo-reformed. Yeah,
right. But we weren't used to people really bringing like family to them. This last time, some people brought their family, and it was we had people like enter in the back, and there was a fire where we immediately just like confronted you with like, how have you betrayed him? And then you went into this room and there were just these experiential things where you had to like drive nails into, your betrayal. And it just, it's like your Judas was like the whole event. And I think this poor family was like, oh, nice, a Good Friday service. Just showed up and they're like, okay, what is happening?
No, it's good.
Yeah.
I think Good Friday services are we've only done one.
Yeah.
They are a dark and foreboding thing. I think the thing we always run into, we did a lot of those things in the first 5 years of our church. And then as we got more and more children, you end up, it just
gets hard to manage.
It gets hard to manage, especially when they're young, and how are you going to coordinate that, and what are you doing for them, and what's the, and how do they know what to do,
and you do start having maybe the people with kids just don't show up to that stuff anymore or something, right?
Right, and that would be 2/3 of our church.
Yeah, no, and it's an increasing number of ours too. I think it'd be great to figure out how to continue to involve them, but it's a challenge.
Right. Well, it's one thing to figure out how to continue to involve a 7-year-old. It's another to see how to continue to involve a 1.5-year-old. Those experiences that you're going to create are a little different.
You just get them to cry as loud as possible, and that will just add to the general foreboding atmosphere.
Especially in the Good Friday, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we put a lot more emphasis when it comes to Lent on Ash Wednesday. And the children know, they know what to expect because we've done it every year, and so they're quiet, and we have it's shorter service, but it's different than the other service.
Yeah.
So that's more where our emphasis is on Ash Wednesday.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're heading into it, aren't we?
We are. I mean, I guess people could get a sense that we're just kind of trying to figure this out, and God's doing stuff in the midst of all of it.
Oh yeah. You know what? I've actually, for all the struggles we've had this year, it feels like one of the most. I sense like we've got people who are pushing into like deeper relationship with God this year, and like God's gaining ground in the lives of people who are alienated from him in our concentric circles more than any other year. It makes me really sad for the people who've disengaged, who are like upset or something, because they're missing it, because there's just this awesome stuff that's been going on that I've been starting to like tune into more and just be like, whoa. Well, like I think I told you, we've had way more new visitors in our weird reduced size services than we're used to having.
That's
like
really
lots of visitors.
That's really interesting. Is we've had none.
Yeah, no, we have had, and I'm like,
where are they coming from? How are people finding you? I mean, this has been the question that here, we got a few minutes. Let me see.
No, you're good.
We got a few minutes.
Various reasons. Some people, like we had some that they've just moved to town. Some who, like I said, like being brought along by somebody who's kind of engaging more with faith.
Right.
We've had a lot of our people who've been really like dedicated to this period have been bringing people even on Zoom.
Interesting.
And I think just realizing they're as people have been going through 2020, realizing there are certain people they know who are struggling or asking big questions, and they've been beginning to engage and bring them along. And like I said, I feel like there's a group of people who've been like either just down or frustrated by this time and have sort of missed out on some of that. Like what, I don't know. I don't want to be critical. I'm just saying, I honestly think that's happened because it feels like during this time where it's like a time of great opportunity that we have because people are, it's a hard year and they're asking why and what do I do? What does this mean? Or I don't know. I feel like we've just seen some real, I don't know what's the right word. I'm thinking of there's like fallow ground, and then there's like when the soil gets kind of broken up
there,
and things begin to grow.
Yeah. So it sounds like the real thing. I mean, yes, I think it happens a lot. People move into town, they're looking for a church.
There's been some of that.
They land on that. But it sounds like more that people in your community who maybe when things were normal weren't as in touch with their friends
Yep. Yes.
searching, and this somehow has connected them more to God and then more to their awareness of what other people might be wrestling with.
I'm definitely seeing that. Seeing both.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's been encouraging. And I think I would say that there's the same malaise and frustration that I'm talking about is something I have experienced too this year. And I feel like I'm just grateful that that's beginning to sort of break away, and I'm beginning to go, oh, God's at work here. It's hard. We're having to pivot. We're having to do things differently. I don't love that.
Right.
But seeing, okay, this is good. This is good. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like the Village went through a little bit of that experience over the last year and a half.
Okay.
When we went to two services. Well, not before COVID.
Yeah.
When we went to two services, we were in that process of more and more new people showing up, more people people beginning to have a sense of, there's space in my community. Like, it's interesting. I put up a picture because I was searching for a picture of Vespers, and I put up this picture of our church when it was one service, and I was looking at it. It's like packed. Like, there's no standing room anywhere.
Yeah.
And so that had an impact on our community of like, there's no room in this community for anybody. And as soon as we went to two services, we grew a ton. And it was more like it felt as just our culture of our church going, oh yeah, we can kind of engage the community and there's space in our community for people. Right. But then COVID hit, and that just shut everything. Yeah. I mean, it shut everything down. There is one couple, I think, parents of some people in our church who've decided the Village will be their church when everything kind of gets back together, and they've been watching and engaging as much as they can in on the process. But it's been hard for us to figure out what this looks like.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
I don't know how that's going to work out in the end. But it's exciting that God's doing some stuff there.
Yeah. And who knows? But
I would say you're right. Like, I feel like even people who are wrestling and upset about certain things that are happening in culture, I see in their lives where they're being forced to reckon with Jesus and their relationship with God. And what does that mean? And what is he doing, even when things aren't going the way they want, either politically or socially or whatever. So
100%. Like, if you don't begin to ask those questions, when we believe in a God who really knows what he's doing and is involved in our lives on every level, this time has meaning, has purpose. And so it's anyway, that's just the general principle. But yeah, I've seen that. I've felt the same way. I've thought, this is a great time to ask, why am I so upset? Right. And I've been asking myself that stuff too. Like, why am I getting so, tense about X, Y, or Z? What is that?
Right.
What's this about? And without times like these, you don't ask those questions. And those are what drive you deeper into your relationship with this living Christ King who came and entered into a chaotic situation with us to save us from it. What does that have? How does that speak to this situation? Am I willing to hear that? Yeah.
Agreed. I think this is probably the end of this podcast.
Okay.
That was a nice end.
All right. Well, hey, we got to ask you guys to really slow down on blowing us up on faithoverbreakfast@gmail.com. The email stream has been exhausting.
It's insane.
Oh, if we get one more topic from you people, I swear we're going to shut this thing down. So please don't email us there anymore. It needs to stop. What I'm trying to do here is reverse psychology and get, does anybody want us to talk about something? Nobody emails us. You should.
One of we just got to do things like a prize.
Oh, you get
If
you get an
If
hour.
you send us 5 emails requesting 5 different topics,
Oh,
then Andy will sign a white T-shirt for you.
Oh,
and
great.
He'll give it to you.
I was going to say Eric will spend 2 hours mining the depths of your soul.
That's for 10 emails.
10 emails. Okay, great. You get a white T-shirt for me for 5. I like that. That works. That works. So there you go. So thanks for tuning in, and
There you go. Oh gosh.